Okay, so
Does
we're
that
going live
answer
now.
your question, Alexander? We're live now 45 seconds ago.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so now we should be live, and get my right screen up here with the notes. I will share. Okay, so welcome everyone. I'm going to go ahead and get started here, although I'm sure we'll have one or two more join us as we go. And we've got a new member joining us today. Welcome, Andres. If you can hear us, feel free to say hello. Ben, are you able to help with notes today?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Andres, are you able to introduce yourself? I don't know if you've got audio or.
Yes. I think I just hear the.
Do you maybe have the live stream playing in the background? If you have YouTube.
I think that's what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah. So close YouTube. If you're in Zoom, you'll get it in real time that way.
I think that's what's going on. Yeah. I'll just do that. Much better.
Okay, good. So welcome, Andres. Could you maybe just introduce yourself real quick? Tell us about who you are and how long you've been with e-NABLE and anything else you like to share.
Absolutely, yes. So my name is Andres Abello. I'm located in South Florida. I've been with e-NABLE for I don't know, maybe about 6 months or so. And honestly, I'm just getting my feet wet. So I'm just getting started to actually look at what's going on. This is my first meeting, and just see how I can get involved and help out. Pretty much that's where I stand.
Excellent. Well, you are very welcome here, as is anyone, and we will do our best to help you find your way and get started. But also note that these town hall meetings tend to be a little bit kind of higher level, like we tend to talk about maybe challenges facing the community and work that needs to be done and things like that, which of course we need everyone's involvement with. And you might find opportunities to help out through this other than just making devices for people. We have lots of other needs. Having said that, we do have other meetings that you also might find useful. There's a new members meetup. Be sure to check that out if you haven't. And then following that, there's also a new sort of a focus follow-up where we kind of dive deeper into some topics for new members. So we'll talk about those upcoming events in a short while. But welcome, good to have you here.
Thank you.
Okay, so back to our notes. Andre, let me just jot your name in here. Is it Abello? Is that how you pronounce your last name?
Yes, Abello, you got it.
Great. Okay, welcome. All right, action items. So first one is for me to write up a job description for the matching platform analysis and give that to Bob. And I did send him something this morning. And what I realized, let me just pull it up here as I'm talking about this. Let's see. As I started typing this up, what occurred to me is, I don't really need to give them the job description for like an e-NABLE Web Central developer or the WordPress PHP developer. What we need right now is somebody to do this needs analysis, figure out what is our path forward, what is the platform that our community needs. And so I did my best to describe what I think we need for that, which is mainly somebody that's really familiar with our community and our processes and what's worked and what hasn't worked and, matching and, that, this, that, and the other thing. So I do think this is going to have to be a veteran from within our community, but I don't think it needs to be anyone with heavy development skills. If this person recommends the path forward is, let's focus on EWC and make that into what we need, well, then we need a developer with those skills. But if they decide, we really should focus on this platform that France gave us and use that, well, then the person we need going forward is going to be a PHP coder. And so I think for right now, the person that we need is not a hardcore developer, but somebody that really understands how our community works and, what we're going to need to have things work smoothly. So that's where I kind of summed that up the best I could for Bob, who, by the way, is not able to join us today. So while imperfect, I'm going to consider my action item done there, and we'll see what else he needs from me, and I'll continue to help the best I can. I have not yet gone live with the new device catalog pages. I apologize to Alexander for holding things up when he completed his work. I do need to get with Alexander to get some help on doing that, and I just wasn't able to make time for that this week. So I will do my best to get this done. Sorry for keeping that on hold for so long. Next one is for Bob, so we'll come back to that when he's here. Alexander, develop a process for capturing frequently asked questions, maybe leveraging Discord to capture those. I know you're doing that part of it. Have you gotten to the point of sharing anything in the Hub Wiki yet?
No,
Okay.
I think we should be waiting until we get more questions, although the questions have gotten quite repetitive.
Well, and that's kind of what we're looking for, those repetitive questions. So I'm just going to leave it on the to-do list here, if you don't mind, so we can touch base on it, from time to time. Is that all right?
Sure.
Okay. Ben's going to work on creating a newsletter archive in the Hub Wiki. Any updates there?
I set up in the wiki, I set up a placeholder for it.
Okay.
Is that where we want it? If you go to the main forum using the wiki?
I believe so. Let's see.
Great.
Wiki, we're down here. Nope, that's the video archive. Oh, enable
You see it right at the
newsletters.
top.
Okay, and
Right,
let's
so
just, yes, I
just
think let's just
placeholder.
change the order. I'm going to drag this under the getting started stuff.
Sure.
But yes, I think that would be perfect, just underneath that.
Great.
Okay, so we'll leave that on there. Bob helped us flash forward partnership. So Bob was going to reply back to them, let them know that we're interested and we'll discuss further. Ben, you were going to contact Kyle. Any updates there?
Yep. I got a response from Kyle. We'll try to meet up. If not this weekend, then next week. Sort of just depends on schedules. But he said he'd be keen to share his experience, and we can sort of model what we ask FlashForge based on that.
Excellent. I'm actually really curious about when you talked to him. You mentioned this last time, Ben, that you had the impression that maybe the Creality ambassadorship hadn't, sort of developed the way he was hoping or something. And I'm curious about that. I see this a lot where an organization decides they want to do something and they go into it with all this energy and get off to a good start, but then it kind of, peters out. And I'm kind of wondering if that has happened with Creality, and if that's, something that we need to think about with these other partnerships. But I'm curious if that's still going, if they're still putting energy into that. Are they keeping up with those plans?
Sure, I can ask him about that, and yeah, I'm sure a lot of it is impacted by COVID and
Sure, especially
economy and everything else. Yeah,
I think they wanted him traveling around. So
yeah.
Okay, still working on the chapter spotlight updates for Rich Brown.
Yep, I did hear back from Rich. He's not available for the chapter leaders roundtable meeting on not next, but the week after on that Monday. But we can get he did respond, and I got a whole bunch
Excellent.
of updates. It sounds like while the chapter is sort of been shifted into other things, a lot of the volunteers are still active, which is great. So
I'm just going to move a couple of these down here under action items. I'm going to take some time so that we don't have to hit on those every week. So Ben, you were going to create a list of universities with e-NABLE chapters for the handshake program. Did you get to that?
Yep, I started looking at some of that stuff. That one of the things with handshake is it looks like it's mostly US based. So I was looking for all these international universities there, and obviously couldn't find much. So I am going to try to set up in our audit form a new column that has the universities that these chapters are connected to, because it's not always so clear when you're going through based on the name. You look at it, says, for example, the Helping Hands project that Jeff Powell put together is a collaboration between 4 universities.
Okay, good to know.
So yeah, so some of this stuff doesn't really, and obviously it's organic, it doesn't fit necessarily in one kind of a pattern. So but I'll try to collect some information on which universities are in Handshake, but also update the spreadsheet so we have a better sense of all the international schools that are involved.
Perfect. We're going to be talking about this in a little while, but I'm curious, is Marymount University in there? Do you know? I
can look it up right now.
Okay. We'll come back to that. I'll explain why I'm asking in a short while. So I'm just going to move on while you're looking at that. Metrics.
Yes,
they are excellent. Okay. These are metrics. And the only thing that really stood out to me this week is that we had I think a lot less than usual activity for whatever reason, just, only a few posts, not too many likes, just not a lot going on the hub this week. And that happens sometimes. Otherwise, nothing out of the ordinary. We're still sitting on a nice $50,000 e-NABLE fund, folks. We really need good projects. Just keep in mind, we're we're months in now to our new funding cycle, and there will come that time where we need to go back and ask for more money. And to do that, we're going to need to be able to show them all the great stuff we did with this funding. So let's think about projects. All right, from the hub, like I said, not a lot of activity this week, so I only had 2 posts to highlight, but they're good ones. Eric Bubar with Marymount University has had so much success in the program that he's built just for e-NABLE on the side that his school authorized him creating a whole new biomedical engineering degree that is all about training students to use low-cost open source digital fabrication to make assistive tech, which I think is so cool. And so here's a link to that post, and there's some discussion on there, but tied up with this, today they are doing an event, which I think sounds very cool. I've got it on my calendar. So at 6 p.m. today Eastern, they're going to do a day in the life of O&P, and this is being done by Leo, what's his last name? Leo Gagnon, who presented at one of our prior conferences. This was a previous student of Eric's who went on to become a professional in the industry. And so he is going to be sharing his experience of what it is like to work in this industry. So I think that should be fascinating.
Maybe something to jump in and add to that. Leo is also going to be a guest at 1 p.m. for the Bionic design group. So
is he? Oh, excellent.
Yeah, so they are going to share a little bit about their device development with the first Bionic design developed at Marymount.
Excellent. Okay, so 2 meetings to check out today. So the one that you mentioned is at 1 p.m. Eastern, Ben? Is that right? 1 p.m. Eastern and 6 p.m. Eastern. Get those on our calendars. Okay. And then Yoav posted an article that was shared by engineering.com, which I'm assuming is a pretty high publicity publication. Although, well, maybe I'm wrong. It says Fabaloo here, but here it says by engineering.com. So I guess I'm a little bit confused about that. But regardless, a nice article about the work they're doing and making prosthetics for people. It's pretty much your typical stuff that we see in these types of articles. I always kind of like to look just to see if, e-NABLE is getting a nice mention. They did. At the end, they mentioned enabling the future, which is dedicated to the promotion and distribution of 3D printed prostheses, provided the 3D model files, which is a little bit of an awkward description, but hey, they got us in.
Good enough.
Nice. Yes. Students are able to edit the files, add and scale elements, et cetera. So yeah, nice little write-up from, and what is USC? What is that short for?
Southern California, I think.
Southern California, okay. All right, nice. USC
Although
Freehand.
it could be South Carolina.
Is that a chapter out of curiosity, or is that just like a separate organization, the USC 3D 4E Freehand project? Are they like tied in with us, or do we know them?
Looking at into it right now.
Okay. Anyway, that was the only other thing that really caught my attention. So if anyone else sees anything interesting on the hub, let me know. And I'll just mention that, by the way, I always go to when I'm preparing for these meetings, I'm using our where is it? These metrics. Do I still have it up here? I'm hearing myself. Somebody's got YouTube playing, I think. Somebody has our audio playing in the background. You want to mute? Is that you, John?
Maybe that's me.
Could be John. Just to fill in, the University of South Carolina, I'm sorry, School of Medicine, Greenville. That's the school.
Okay. I'm just muting people to see if I can find out where it was. It's not Masvi.
Not me.
I don't know where it's coming from. Could this be on one of my other browsers?
I don't hear it here.
University of Southern Carolina, South Carolina, I'm sorry. South, that's it.
One of your tabs is making noise to the left of the one you've got open.
Thank you. So it must have started. There it is. It started playing in. Okay, sorry, folks. My goodness, it just gets more and more complicated. This live stream stuff. Okay. So where were we? We were talking about the. We covered the articles. That's right. Sorry. Okay. I was saying, as I'm preparing for these meetings, what I do is I'm going into our little metrics tool here that Masvi built for us, and it shows us the most commented posts and everything. That does not mean that those are the only posts worth sharing. There might be some interesting stuff going on the hub that I missed. So if anyone's aware of anything in the hub that's worth highlighting in these meetings, please shoot me an email or a note ahead of our town halls, and I'll be sure to add those into the agenda so that we can be sure to talk about those. I think it's really useful to highlight those in these meetings. Okay, on we go. So our recurring meetings today, we've got the Bionic, I didn't add the link in here, but the Bionic Design Group meeting is today, 1 p.m. And for our other monthly meetings, Ben, I think we need to update this now. So remember, we added this in the hub here on the wiki, but I've still got February's in there. So if you wouldn't mind, can you get that updated with the March summary for us?
Yeah, and there was a little bit of a challenge to try to connect the dots in the device pilots meetings, but I have the other meetings set, so I can update that and just leave it blank for the device pilots.
Update event summary for March. Okay.
And I can actually share that briefly if you'd like.
Oh yeah, go for it. If you have it, please.
Yep. Let's see here. Okay. So currently we have today with Leo Gagnon at the Bionic Design Group meeting. On Monday, we have Eric Bubar is going to share a little bit about his work with the Marymount University. And Lindsay and Karen will either be able to join Monday or at a later date, but I think it's going to be a really great opportunity to connect with all of them coming up. We're going to focus on the contributions of Rich Brown. I'm not sure if it looks like he's not going to be able to join, but we can share the report summarizing his contributions over the 7 years working with Handling the Future for the chapter leaders meeting. The new member meetup, Evan Blackman is going to talk a little bit about how new members can participate in ways other than printing devices. He's been involved in several projects, so he'll be the guest for the new member meetup. Device pilots is still coming together. And for the focus follow-up workshop, Alexander, if you think that still works for you, sharing a little bit about how you can, it's the non-uniform scaling for the print and place design of the Phoenix hand.
Right.
So that's what we got. That's March.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. 1 second. I was just putting these upcoming events on my calendar so I don't miss them. So I've got the Bionic teams today, then we got that event tonight with Marymount, and then another one on Monday. It's like this whole series on Bionics from Marymount. It's great. Okay, get back to my screen sharing here. Okay. So upcoming one-time events, we talked about this today at 6 p.m. Eastern. And then somebody mentioned that the Finnish Medical 3D Printing Network is having an event in mid-March. I don't know exactly when mid-March, but should be coming up soon. So something else to look into. All right, on we go to discussion. So our main discussion lately has been around just sort of the champions that we need to move forward some of these initiatives that are not moving forward. And that is tied up with this discussion about getting interns, at least for some of those initiatives. And so maybe we can just kind of talk about those two topics together. Any updates, Ben or John, or further thoughts on next steps here?
The handshake is really, I think, the next step forward. So John and I looked at the account. We updated the information for e-NABLE, but again, that's just US-based universities as far as I can tell, but that might be plenty. We are, yeah. So we are set up with, I think, 3 universities. I did, as we were talking, set a request to Marymount.
Oh, excellent.
But we can follow up with a few different universities that we've worked with, especially ones that we've been collaborating with. Marymount would be a really great partner, especially if they've got this new program.
Exactly. So let's mention that when we see Eric, he might be able to help us in a more direct way than through that program even.
Great.
Okay, so some progress there. Good, good. Just a reminder that one of those things that we're looking for help with is event planning, because we are into our 10th anniversary year here. So just a reminder that we want to be thinking about what we've been talking about is maybe sort of a month of celebration and allow flexibility of different chapters in different areas doing events at different times throughout that month, and then share those all through the hub, bring them all together, and have more of an ad hoc kind of celebration as opposed to one single event. But we got to start planning that. We got to start getting information out there, because of course we got to do our sort of work in planning and, you know, producing, you know, PDFs or whatever kind of materials we need to share with the community, who then, you know, then everyone else needs the time to do their work to actually prepare materials and get people invited and all. So there's a lot of work involved. We need to give ourselves plenty of runway on this. So I do want to get that intern in, hopefully as soon as possible. I don't know, does anyone else here want to talk about any of these other sort of champion needs or initiatives right now, or is that all kind of covered at this point? We're really just working on interns.
You know, we are still looking for champions for the different events. So maybe just a call to the community if anybody is interested in regularly participating in one of these different thematic meetings. It's a really great way to build some community and be involved, organizing, you know, guest speakers and being able to maybe prepare some questions for them. So we currently have those 6 different community meetings, but it's also open to others. I mean, we could potentially ask Leo or other folks involved with the orthotics and prosthetics. If somebody, you know, in the OT side of things wanted to create a group, that'd be a really interesting discussion topic. So these are open for development.
Great.
For anybody.
Okay, so I added that to the list here of that's a great need to be looking for, some people to organize our recurring meetings and take responsibility for those. Okay, so let's move on. I don't think there's a whole lot of new stuff to talk about under infrastructure, but I did, as I was working on the YouTube channel, I came across a video that I assume you put there, Ben, about YouTube now offering automatic captions with translations, which I watched, and it's so cool. Was that from you?
Yep. Yeah. So last month we had a device pilots meeting that was hosted by Paraguay, and it was the first time that we've tried to organize it that way instead of trying to invite independent device users. Having a chapter organize the devices that they've been distributing and their community. This was with Paraguay, so it was in Spanish. It was really a great presentation, and we switched on the automatic captions for all of the YouTube videos under our channel. So that's something to explore. And again,
no, I got to ask you one question on this, Ben, because they've had automatic captions, but in the past you had to upload your video and then there was a delay, and like a day later the captions would appear. Are you saying they're doing it live now in real time?
No, it's not live. There is a delay, but there was a setting that wasn't in place, I think, for our channel.
Got it. Okay.
So now it is available. The nice thing too is that there's open transcripts, so you can be searching the video for some specific topic point instead of having to scroll through and try to figure out.
Okay. So if there's an event happening in another language, I can't watch it in real time and see it translated, but I can watch the recording later and see it in my language.
Right. That's how we have it set up. Now, I think they do have some services, but I'm sure it's going to be much more limited than the automatic captions with the delay has a large number of languages that are supported. So I'm pretty interested really, to see. Yeah,
really impressive. It seems to work quite well. I was with what I saw. It's pretty slick. So we'll start using that. That's a great find. Thanks, Ben.
Yep. And as a additional role for volunteers that are interested, you can, with the automatic captions, edit really easily because the timestamps are all in there already. So you can go through and look,
errors,
right. You can look for mistakes, and that makes it much easier for the translation. So if you have the Spanish captions correct all the way through.
Let's put that up here. Editor for YouTube video captions.
Yeah. So I made it a post specifically with Spanish speaking new members that have been involved the last couple months. And put the ask out in Spanish, but that could be something where if we do have an event that's in, Turkish or French, we can try to see if we can organize a volunteer from that group to do those edits, and then the translations will be that much better.
Okay, great. John, when I was having the audio issues before and I was muting people to figure out who it was, I muted your phone connection and it looks like it's still muted. So if you've been trying to talk to us, it still shows it on mute. All I can do is ask to unmute, but I don't know what that does when you're on a phone. I don't know how you unmute when you're on dial-in. There you go.
I am unmuted. There you go.
Just
I
out
was
of
just asking
curiosity,
the delay on the trend.
How do you unmute when you're on dial-in?
*6, a little
okay.
robotic lady advises.
That's something new.
So this translation is cool. You've mentioned a delay. Are you talking about the 6-second delay or a multi-hour delay while they get their, technology to run?
Yeah, I believe it's hours. They process in the background.
And that's actually that's not just for the automatic translations, that's for any video. So you can watch it, but there's a processing delay. So sometimes, for example, we'll do a live stream. There's 10 minutes in the beginning where everybody's talking about the weather. I can edit that out only after the video is done processing. Sometimes it takes a couple hours. So it's the same amount of time of processing with the automatic captions.
Yeah. But it's a great feature nonetheless. It won't answer the, for live, but that's not a big deal to me. I think anyone who wants to, anyone who's interested in the content can see it now after the fact in their language. That's great. Which also, by the way, applies to videos that we did before that feature was available, right? So somebody can now go back to our older stuff and watch that with captions in their language. Very nice. Okay.
Maybe one last thing to add in there too.
Sure.
It's possible, as far as I understand, it's possible if we have an event that's in Spanish and then the captions get edited and fixed, then we can also add a second track for English captions. So those edits can be in each language, which is great. So if people are really interested, you really could have a popular video that has accessibility features for a number of languages.
But by default, if you go, like what you were saying, you go in and you edit out the chat at the beginning, does that automatically flow through then for the automatic translations? So that part wouldn't come up in the translated text then? Is that how it works?
I'm not sure I understand.
Well, so if you go in and edit the captions and then somebody watches the video and has it translate to Spanish, they won't see the parts that you edit out in English?
No, the main language
is what's getting translated.
Right. So if it's right. So if it's in Spanish.
So in other words, you don't have to edit those other languages. You can do all your editing in English, but if you want to, you can go in and do further edits within a certain language.
Right. In this case, it was Spanish was the primary language that they used for the video.
Got it.
Right. It's that main.
The primary. Yeah. Okay. Nice. Well, that'll be useful. All right. Other stuff on e-NABLE. I mean, I don't know if there's anything to talk about right now with the hub other than me needing to get with Alexander to finish up on the device catalog. We've got some very exciting progress with the app that we're developing, which is likely to be called e-NABLE Forge. We don't have a final decision on that yet, but we're leaning in that direction. And we have a path forward now. We've gotten over some licensing hurdles and we're going to be able to make fast progress on that now. So that's very exciting. Is Andrew with us here today?
Yes.
Oh, you are. Hey, Andrew. Anything else you want to share about that?
Yes. The first publicly accessible iteration of that is live.
Oh my goodness.
So that can actually be. Yes, I do. We are at e-NABLE.app.
Is that with a dash?
Yes. This little app is super fragile right now, but it proves that everything that we need to do works. We do need to have people authenticate with Onshape. I can use an API key to do stuff in the backend without somebody needing to authenticate for like small stuff. It says for like personal projects, but if we're gonna do if we're gonna have the public accessing the Onshape API, they need to be authenticated with Onshape. This is kind of the thing that we can't do with Fusion, is have them authenticate like this so that it's being done on their behalf. Onshape lets us do this.
Huh. It's not letting me sign in with either of my credentials. Invalid email or password. Maybe I have to reset. Do you want to try to do it on your end and share your screen, Andrew?
Sure. Mine is not going to take me to the Onshape screen. Well, it will, and it'll immediately kick me back because I'm already signed in on Onshape. But
Nice.
this is connected right now to Alexander's Phoenix work in progress. I don't believe that model is ready to go, but it's ready. It's ready enough to demonstrate that this all works. So I need to clean up the front end and make it more clear what's happening right now, but the export is actually going on in the background, receiving status updates. I just need to make a UI that actually shows the progress like we have in the other one. And then we get this nice, yeah, it goes way faster with this new approach. And then we get this nice little zip file that contains our exported STLs.
Yeah, let's open. I want to see that STL, please.
This is conceptually everything we need to make this work.
Look at that.
I just need to clean up this little app, make things a little bit more resilient, and then this kind of minimum viable exporter will be ready to go, and then I'll shift efforts.
We probably have some people watching this that maybe didn't see this before. What you're seeing on screen right now, by the way, is a print in place design. Yes, you are seeing this correctly. Everything prints fully assembled. That is something else that Alexander's working on. We're going to get an update from him on that next.
Technically, that file is working, but you have to generate your own supports. So that's still the current work.
Still very, very cool stuff.
Yeah,
so the app is, we have cleared our roadblocks, and we can get things finished up and rolled out more quickly now.
Yes, in our collaborative design team meeting yesterday, we made the decision that we are going to do all of our exports through Onshape. We've been trying to make this work through Fusion and through Autodesk products. We just have not gotten the traction that we needed. We had a lot of technical roadblocks. So we are now focusing solely on exporting things from Onshape. And now that we've made that big decision and gotten unstuck there, a lot of the development of the full code base for this application, which will support creating profiles of people with reusable measurements, having a large device of catalogs, including things other than just like hand devices and stuff. All of that work is now unstuck, and we have a clear direction to take that in. So I've had multiple people with like technical coding skills come to me saying like, what can we do? And I didn't have an answer for them for a while, but now we're getting unstuck, and I will soon be in a position where I can start delegating things again.
Okay. Well, first things first, now that we have this addressed, I assume it's time for you to then regroup with Lucas, and let's get that proposal done up, right?
Yep, Lucas and I are meeting tomorrow morning.
Excellent. Okay. Anything else to share?
There's a lot of progress on the full code base, but it kind of has whiplash from all of the big changes I've made in the past 2 days. So the full code base has advanced a lot, but it's not in a presentable state. So we've got other progress, but not visible stuff.
Okay, cool. So let's
it's probably worth noting that it's the exporter, which Andrew just demonstrated, which is now working with Onshape, and Onshape is going to be the exporter's partner. But Fusion remains a design and development platform.
Yeah, it was actually
for us and for other people. We've got a pathway that will allow one to go from Fusion to Onshape in order to integrate with the Forge.
Yeah, it was actually a pretty brilliant innovation from Alexander. Not the first by far, but figuring out how to continue to do all of our modeling and parametric design in Fusion, and that remains the master file, but he's pulling it in as a derived object in Onshape, so that, you know, in other words, even if he makes changes in the Fusion model, that's going to be pulled right into Onshape and sort of transparently flow right into this. It's really a very elegant solution that met all of our needs and got around some big challenges. So very creative. And we will be sharing, by the way, not only the new design, which is likely to be called the Evo hand, so keep your eye out there for that. We will not only be sharing that and the new application, we're also going to be sharing a lot of good documentation and tutorials about how we did this, the design principles that we used, the workflow that we used, et cetera. So I think there's going to be a lot of useful information and guidance that come out of this. Certainly a lot of innovations as far as I can see. Okay, so let's move on. I don't think we have to talk right now about matching or ETF or anything like that. So I want to move on to the R&D topic, which brings us to Alexander. Last week, we approved an initiative where he was to build 2 new designs. One is a Phoenix design that allows for non-uniform scaling in a more or less parametric manner. So right now, you can scale the Phoenix hand however you want, but if you scale it in a non-uniform way, your holes are not going to be circles anymore, and your gaps between moving parts are going to be expanding and contracting with everything else. And there's other challenges that come from that. With parametric scaling, you can control all that. So you can scale things in a non-uniform way and still keep things circles. You can keep the space between parts exactly the same offsets. You can do a lot of very powerful stuff. So he's providing a version of the Phoenix that would allow that kind of parametric non-uniform scaling, and also a print in place Phoenix, which you just saw on screen. So over to you, Alexander, to update us on your work.
It will be a little bit longer at the very least until I can actually release the files. Pretty much everything except one thing has been going according to plan. I was actually toying around right now with the non-uniform one, except generating breakaway supports.
Yep.
That has been, yeah.
You brought this up in chat, Alexander, and it immediately got me thinking, why not just export the object as an STL and let people turn on supports in the slicer? You can enable it to build supports only touching the build plate, so that you don't get supports on the interiors. Wouldn't that do it?
That would be fine by me, but generating such supports, if you're not marking specifically where you're generating those supports, the result might be a little bit messy. So for example, you might get supports inside the pinholes.
Well, no, again, as long as you set it to only do it where it's touching the build plate, that should eliminate all the holes, because you can't touch the build plate from those. You know what I mean? It should only be
you can with tree
below.
supports at an angle. That's my worry.
I never use tree supports. I'm talking about just generic supports, touching build plate only. It'll build the vertical scaffolding right up to the lower surfaces. I think it's worth testing. My guess is it would work fine. It's only going to touch the fingertips. You know, you set your angle pretty high. You can go to maybe a 60, 65 degree support angle is what I usually use. And then you're going to get supports on the fingertips and, at the base. And I think it might work just fine. So I would suggest testing that.
That's up to the community decision, really. If we're fine without supports,
we just give me an STL file. If you give me an STL file of the hand itself, I'll pull it into Cura and turn on supports.
Open up the link for Andrew's work. The supports are a separated entity in there.
I don't know what link you mean.
It's the one in the chat. So just above my message.
That's the app.
Yeah.
Okay, but
he can't log into the app right now.
All right, then I will give you an STL in a second.
Okay. Yeah, we don't need to do it now. I'm just saying, if you just take that STL file and bring it into Cura and check the box for supports and touching build plate only and change the support angle to 60 degrees and then slice it and preview it, you'll have your answer. I think it'll be fine. So anything else? I know that once you're done, when you have the designs, I'm going to be helping you with a video tutorial of how to, modify these parameters and things, how to make use of that Phoenix. And maybe these supports, we'll cover that too. So just let me know when you're ready for that. I'll be happy to get that done for you. Anything else to talk about on this?
I'm sorry, I spaced out exporting this. What did you just say?
I was just saying, when you're ready, when you have these designs ready, I'll be doing this video tutorial for you. We'll show people how to actually use these parametric files and how to set up the supports and all that. So whenever you're ready, I'll do that part of it.
If we're fine without the custom supports, I will be done in less than an hour.
Okay, well, let's touch base.
That's literally the entire hold up.
And I might be able to do it later today even. So yeah, let's touch base on that later. You can ping me on Slack and we'll figure it out. All right. Anything else that you need from us to get this done? It sounds like you're pretty close already, right?
No, not really. Only if you're available to have the documentation and the video to the documentation and the video tutorial be a chat between the two of us, so that I remember to say everything and we can make sure that way that it actually makes sense.
Absolutely. But to be clear, I did not volunteer to do the documentation. I volunteered to do the video. So I'm assuming you're
yeah, for the video. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, the documentation is written.
We can certainly talk about the documentation, but I'm not sure I want to take that on. Okay. I do want to point out here as a side note, I think there's an interesting aspect of this little experiment we're doing of kind of approving a specific task for a specific amount. In my experience in consulting, I had many years of owning consulting firms, and I always found that fixed bids were very risky because projects always take longer than you think. So you do a fixed bid, you end up taking twice as many hours as you thought, and your bill rate goes down to, you know, half of what you were expecting. And so I will say that the community gets good value on a fixed fee project like this, because as Alexander just said, he's going to need a little bit more time. He's probably put in many more hours than he thought he would on this, and yet the price.
I spent the entire week on those damn supports only to find out that the tech doesn't exist yet.
There you go. It's always going to take longer than we think. So there is some extra value in doing these on kind of a fixed fee basis, at least, you know, for us, not so much for the guy doing the work. All right, so on we go. We already kind of touched on the collaborative design team. That work is going really well. We'll have a new Evo hand for the community in the not too distant future. My best guess would be within 1 to 2 months. And let's see, Vivek working on state of the art for bionic limbs, and we got an update on that today with news from our friend Leo Gagnon, and see the other presentations from Marymount. So a lot of we'll learn a lot about bionics in the next few days. I guess this one's no longer relevant. Alexander was talking about somebody else that made a parametric version. I assume yours will supersede this, right?
Most likely. Plus, I believe that one was in what was the name of the software? Grasshopper and Rhino.
Oh, okay, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, yeah.
Granted, they did have the option of removing fingers, which I don't have.
Okay, well, so this is, maybe it's worth sharing both. They might serve different needs.
Yeah.
Okay. And there was this idea of a proper R&D department. Now, I'm not quite sure where we are on this. What are your thoughts on this currently, Alexander, now that you've had a little more time with us? And
my thoughts are pretty much exactly the same. With or without me, I strongly believe that there is a need for a tech lead to actually coordinate all the projects and make the entire proposing workflow faster, and so on and so forth.
So this could potentially be something similar to what we're doing with Ben, right? Where it's a paid engagement, but of a longer term that, you know, we kind of approve for some period of time and then it gets renewed as needed. That kind of an approach seems like it might work for this, where it's almost like a part-time role that's being done as opposed to a project.
Yeah, and that way you actually have somebody to respond to all the trickier questions that nobody else wants to respond because they don't want to take the responsibility.
Well, so I'll just say I like the idea, and I think the timing for the discussion is good because we have plenty of funds to cover something like this. I think that if you had the bandwidth to propose this, Alexander, I think you've already demonstrated that you absolutely have the right skills to do this. I would love to see this. I don't know how others feel. Anybody else have any thoughts on whether it would be a good idea to write this up as a discussion and possibly proposal to move forward?
Absolutely.
Ben, what are your thoughts? Ben's a thumbs up. John, are you hearing us? What do you think on this?
I am hearing you. So the proposition is for a position analogous to Ben's, specifically for a technical coordinator for the community.
Technical in the sense of being tied to design, development, that part of the technical, yes. Not like development technical.
Yes, the catch is it has to be the right person. The one right person we're aware of is Alexander, and I don't know if he could do it. That's not enough to sustain Alexander. and if he got a full-time job, he might not be able to keep it up. What are your thoughts about that, Alexander?
It depends. It depends
Thank you
both
so
on the
much.
pay, because technically what you count as part-time pay. So I believe part-time pay in the US counts as about $1,000 or just above that, right?
You mean for tax purposes? Like when you need to, what do you mean?
Not about tax purposes, about the actual pay.
I don't think
Because
there's any.
we have different numbers here for different positions.
I'm not aware of a pay limit for, I think it's for us, it's tied to how many hours in a week you're working.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, so
Anyway,
that
besides
so,
the pay, which in theory, even part-time, it might be able to sustain me, especially since it's part-time. My other worry is a potential conflict of interest if I also become the biggest, the person that proposes the most actual projects, especially in terms of small projects like this one.
I wouldn't see that as
a
I wouldn't see that as a conflict of interest. If the projects are getting done, you're just simply fulfilling two different roles. You know, the one that's coordinating and guiding and offering guidance and counsel and managing across projects, but also the guy that might be doing some of those projects. And it occurs to me that those, you know, that might be part of the answer here. If we could arrange this where you had this part-time role with some pay, maybe that's not enough pay to cover all of your needs, but it could be complemented with some projects like what you're doing right now, where you propose additional discrete projects for additional fees that you would do in parallel with this ongoing part-time role. And with those combined, maybe you could sustain yourself. I'm just thinking out loud.
That is definitely the case.
Ben's got his hand up. Go ahead, Ben.
I was going to mention, in terms of a position, a role that can be filled by different people, that could be a model for this as well. So if it's something where the project is to sort of define a role in a series of tasks, and then make that clear how that role works and model it, it could be something that could be easily filled if you were busy, or if there was an intern or something like that. So there could be a way of basically jogging between different things. You can sort of set up some momentum with a series of tasks, and then potentially we get an intern and you switch to a different focus and work on a different project and have the intern follow the structure that you've set up. So that could be a way to think about this too.
I guess.
Go ahead, John.
And Alexander has gone back and forth on what he has an appetite for and what he enjoys doing and so on. And so I'm a little bit unclear about what exactly is the fit here, but I think seeing it on a single page would be helpful.
Well, and I was going to point that out. I mean, if we wanted to move forward in exploring this, per our policy, the first step is going to be to write it up as a discussion thread on Lumio, and that's going to run for at least a week. I think that'll help to bring up these questions and clarify what we're talking about and how this would work before it actually turns into a vote. So I would like to see it at least get going as a discussion if Alexander can write it up.
I think this could be really valuable for the community, both just in having more direction for like our technical projects and stuff, but also for kind of establishing a pattern for how we can grow. One of our big challenges, being decentralized and very non-hierarchical, is kind of our superpower and also our kryptonite. I think this is one of the ways that we can address the shortcomings of that model, is to, I mean, if we're hurting for champions and we've got people who have passion for these projects, I think this can kind of bridge that gap and serve as a good model. I also think,
I mean, we're flush on cash. We need good projects, so this fits in with that. I also think that if this works, another potential candidate for a similar role would be in the development space. So somebody like you, I don't know if you'd be available, Andrew, but somebody like you could play a similar role of a kind of a part-time leader coordinator for anyone doing development work, web development, software development, et cetera. That could also have a lot of value as our infrastructure needs continue to evolve and grow.
there is some interesting complexities involved with some of these positions or roles or projects, managing volunteers.
Yes.
So just thinking about how those two pieces fit together really clearly, and actually having them very intentionally puzzled together, I think would be super helpful. So, for example, one of the things that John and I worked on together before was managing some interns that were coming in. So there were some funds that went to the interns. There were some funds in sort of the project position that I had, and working together in that way, the interns were coordinating with a bunch of volunteers, getting speakers for events and that kind of stuff. Thinking about that kind of a network of roles could be helpful.
I'm just, as you can see, we're coming up with some interesting ideas of different kind of lead roles, and I'm just adding them into our list of kind of champions needed, because we are, I think, over weeks here developing kind of an interesting list of all these different kind of key areas of need. I think that, we don't quite know how to fill all of them yet, but it's actually turning into a very useful list, I think. So I don't want to go into these other topics necessarily. I think we've covered everything we have to. So at this point, let me just ask if anyone here has any questions or anything else you'd like to talk about. And by the way, before I forget, Ben, when is our next new members meetup, so we can let Andres know that? When would that be?
It is the next new member meetup. It's the third Monday of the month. It's actually I think it's the 18th. It's the same. The days of the week lined up exactly the same between February and March. So whatever it says in the February, I think it is the 18th.
Excellent. Okay. So yeah, be sure to join us for that, Andres. We spend a lot more time in those meetings talking about kind of where you want to focus and pointing you to the right resources and really kind of trying to help people find their footing and next steps. For right now, do you have any questions? Just kind of having listened in today, is there anything we can help you with in terms of pointing you in the right direction?
I will let you know if I do.
Okay.
Obviously, it's a lot to take in, but yeah, yeah, I will let you know for sure.
Yeah, you picked one of the heavier meetings to dive into here, but I'm glad you could join us, and please do join for these anytime. Everyone's welcome. Just go where your interests are, whatever you want to get involved with. It's completely up to you.
Awesome.
Anyone
Thank
else?
you.
No? Okay,
Nice to meet you, Andres.
Yes. All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Nice to meet you.
And a reminder, about an hour from now, what is that? The Bionic design group, Ben?
Yep.
1 hour. All right. See y'all.